Hello, everyone out there on LinkedIn on your lunch breaks. Thank you so much for tuning in because I've got a fantastic freeway special here. I haven't got just one guest. I've got two guests, which have kindly, from all different parts of the world, tuned in for this live, unscripted conversation on LinkedIn and soon to be on other platforms as well. So without further ado, enough about me. We don't want to know about me. We want to talk about our two awesome guests. So I'll go around this way. So we have here Andrei, who is a very special guest, and you can do a big introduction of yourself, but you have an awesome architectural visualization studio, and you are the president. Well, that sounds really, really important, isn't it? You are the president of, let me get it up here, the full title is the American Society of Architectural Illustrations. So, illustrators. Andrei, welcome to the stage. So,
hey, Stephen.
It's good you're here. And before we open the conversation up, I've got an awesome guest who's an actual architect, trailblazing in this digital world we're talking about, the metaverse. Okay, some people have said to us, should architects really be in the metaverse, doing stuff in the metaverse? Well, we have an architect who's doing stuff in the metaverse. Shajay from Zaha Hadid, how are you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for the invitation, Steve, and also to Andrei. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you, and we can talk all about the cool stuff you've done with code and all that in a bit. So maybe we can focus the conversation for a second. So I have been looking in for the last few weeks about architecture careers in the metaverse. So what I see, guys, is that I've heard conversations, mixed opinions right now. Some people believe it's the future. They think it's like the next thing that's going to happen. It makes total sense, right? Architects designing the metaverse because we design the physical environment, right? On the other end of the scale, I get people going, nah, this is a fad. This is like video games. Architects shouldn't be doing that. You know, you train for 7 years. There's no titles registered in the metaverse and all this crazy stuff. So maybe to kick it off, Shajay, because you are an architect who's done things in the metaverse, what would you say to people who think, first of all, that an architect has no place in the metaverse? Because you've done loads of projects in this space, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think like we see the metaverse as like fundamentally a kind of sandbox for experimentation on the one hand, and also like it foregrounds two things about architecture which like should be so even in the physical world. Like one is that like it foregrounds user experience, like it foregrounds the fact that like buildings are meant to be for people, not to somehow do things in budget, right? Like so I think the fact that it foregrounds user experience and foregrounds social experience, like multiple people together, and so it's kind of like ideally suited for architects to apply and finesse their core competence, like which obviously will then make it will be felt even in the physical world projects that architects will do. So I think so there's that one if there's one significant reason or if to for us architects to be involved in the metaverse is or at least try and shape its future, is that like it is supremely beneficial to our own profession and the things that we will do in the physical world, cities and so yeah, like I don't at all see why people should be against the metaverse. It doesn't impede on like what we do in the physical world. It only positively affects that. So
yeah, fair enough. Now, and I appreciate that. Okay, now, and I'm just gonna move it around here. So, Andrei, okay, you're setting up this trailblazing event, and I'm gonna play the trailer in a little bit. But you got to wait for this kick-ass trailer because you got to stick with us for a little bit longer before we get to this awesome trailer. And Shajay, we will show you work. But Andrei, you've got this amazing event coming up, and a large part of this event you're doing is you're talking about the metaverse as well as some other things as well. So, and I'm guessing this event also touches upon things of the future. What's your opinion, Andrei, on the naysayers who think like forget about the metaverse or all that stuff.
I think people are always afraid of the new, you know.
Yes.
That's the nature, it's human nature. So to me, I mean, one of the discussions, sort of side point we're having at the event, is about artificial intelligence and the future of design, and that's a very provocative question.
Yeah.
And you can, within our firm, for example, we talk about these kind of issues, and I say you got to ride the dragon. You know, you've got to embrace it and utilize it and become, I don't say become the master of it. Maybe is a bit of a too strong a word. It sounds almost like evil. You're controlling it, but you've got to make it part of what you do, part of your creative output, part of your design output. If you're going to stick your head in the sand and think that's too, it's not for everybody. That's why not every firm is doing what Shajay and his team are doing. It's not a coincidence. I think that Zaha Hadid architects are at the forefront of this. It's the firms that like are kind of wired to think forward that are progressing in it, and usually the rest follow. So the skeptics, it's just, I think, wait and see. I think we don't 100% know what it will be, right? So that's a very valid concern. Like, what is the metaverse? There's
Yeah.
companies now being formed. So one the other day, it's a Web 3.0 kind of new Nasdaq. These companies that are almost like hypothetical punts on what the future will look like, but we're heading there. There's no going back. Just a matter of figuring out how it will actually look. I think architects actually contributing to that is going to be very formative. And I think it's very important. If it's all done by gamers and commercial interests, that's a different kind of space than when it's actually designed. And that to me is cool. Like, that's interesting. So, I'm an optimist, but with a sprinkling of responsibility about how to make this actually something positive and beneficial.
Fair enough. I'm so impressed. So on one hand, Andrei, you've organised this awesome event that's coming up, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit more. I promise you guys, we're going to talk about that in a sec. But Shajay, you're designing things, right? And I'm going to confess the amount I've done, because I'm starting to play with spatial over the weekend. But you're way ahead of that, right? You're way ahead. So maybe if it's cool with you guys as well, as much as I love talking, what I'll do, and that's what I've been organising here. So it's little old me. If it's cool with you guys, I'm going to bring up some projects and we can talk about it in the sidelines. So we can look at the event, we can look at the videos you've done. And Shajay, maybe you can show me, talk about one or two of the stuff that you've done at Zaha Hadid Architects. So, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I could be wrong, but I did a little bit of research. And so one of the projects that I believe that you're behind recently is loading up now. It's called Architecting in the Metaverse. So I'll bring this up now. Oop, here we go. So am I correct, Shajay, that you're behind this project? Is that right?
Yeah, Zaha, the architects, collaborated with Rafiq Anadol Studios, and people who were familiar in the artificial intelligence and creative fields, like they will know Rafiq inside out. Like, and he's been operating in this intersection of AI technologies and creative output for at least 10, 15 years. And so this was just before DALI 2 came out, like came out commercially. Like, so Rafiq had early access to it, and like we were like, yes, there's totally um, a fantastic collaboration. Like, he wanted to train that system on like the kind of oeuvre of work, or our repository or archive at Zaha Hadid Architects. And so yeah, like, so this was a fantastic early glimpse of like how professional creative artists can push the boundaries, so that like that these technologies become more widely accessible, more engaging, or people can foresee how to use them, right? Like in because that's the role of architects and the role of professional creatives, like in any field, like music or sculpture and so on. It's like how to create art which is augmented through AI technologies, right? Like, and through digital technologies. And um, yeah, like, so that this project was like a fantastic glimpse into what could be possible. Yeah.
I love it. It is does remind me of the Matrix slightly, but super, super, super cool. And you had a preview to DALL-E. Well, I'm a bit late. I've been playing around with Midjourney and kind of been sucked into it. I was sending all my pictures on WhatsApp to my parents and all this stuff like, hey, check it out. This is the house of the future. So I've got the bug as well. I love it. And I did laugh when I think someone won an art competition by entering a Midjourney image. And everyone was outraged, weren't they, in the scene? They're like, ah, but come on, it's a bit of fun. And you know, it shows how impressive this stuff is. So I love it. And now what I'm going to bring up as well. So, Andrei, it's only fair, isn't it, if I'm bringing up this, because you've actually got your own trailer as well, which is really cool. So I'm going to bring that up now, because in this event, we're going to be talking about a lot of these projects as well. But Andrei, maybe you can tell us about the event. And what I'm going to do now is, I don't know if the sound comes up or not. You tell me, guys, if you hear the sound. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I have never tested the sound on here.
The way that we collectively
Do you hear it?
visualize the future.
Helps it
Yeah.
become a reality.
This is cause and effect.
Technology is advancing at a rapid rate.
The requirements of the spaces that we live and work in must change.
The future of our cities is dependent on the decisions we make now.
Here we go. Wow, I felt like I was in a movie. You know, the trailers that come on before the films. That was unbelievable. I'm going to give a round of applause there. So you get a round of applause for such a kick-ass trailer. And I'm feeling the excitement and the energy. So just a quick interjection on that. It's called Cause and Effect, right? Andrei, do you want to tell us where the idea came from this, and why you're talking about the metaverse, and what cause and effect is?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I love it too. So good to get the nice feedback. We wanted to feel like an epic trailer, not a corporate conference. This is going to be fun. So just a bit of backstory. So I was approached by the American Society of Architectural Illustrators, who have been around for close to 40 years. They're the longest tenured sort of association that focuses on the promotion and support of architectural illustration. You can imagine what that would have been 40 years ago, right? Watercolor, traditional hand, and that's still a component of the focus. But more and more, it's come into the digital realm. And every year they have a volunteer president who essentially their job is to create an event, and it can be anywhere in the world. I think they thought I would have said I would have hosted it in Australia. I'm actually in Melbourne now for those listening, and it's midnight. So commitment, Stephen. This is real commitment,
and
right
your
here.
connection's really well for around the world. So
I know, and I feel really awake. Just 3 coffees later.
You're doing amazing.
Yeah. So I said, look, let's do it in London, because it's such an engaged design community, architecture community, real estate community, visualization, digital arts. You know, it's like such a hub for all these things, and there's already existing communities. Even the network that you have, like, these things don't necessarily exist in other locations. So it was kind of relatively easy to reach out to a really awesome and diverse audience. So I thought also, okay, well, we don't want this to be another sort of geek fest for just like, hey, let's talk about the latest software and plugins. Let's make something that is actually going to talk to the audience of not only the internal industry audience, but the clients, the stakeholders that ultimately commission the work, and to showcase to them the creative and narrative and technological possibilities that exist currently, not necessarily talking about things in 10, 15, 20, kind of one day maybe things, but things that are on the cusp today or about to happen, that people might not know about, and also really bring together this, as you can see on the screen there. We've got it's basically 15 speakers. Everyone's doing like a TED Talk style presentation. And the idea is to show how all these different stakeholders, this global village of vision makers. So I'm broadening in the concept of visualization to those that create visions of the future. They could be the architect, they could be the visualizer, they could be the developer themselves and their marketing team. They could be the filmmakers, they could be futurists, they could be technologists, artists. So we've got like, I can rattle off all the speakers because they're pretty awesome. Should I, Stephen, or is that a bit too much?
Yeah, I put a few up here. I want to say though,
Yeah.
Shajay, you're down as the architect. The architect. That's quite an honor, right?
Well, we gave everybody like every protagonist, as we call them. It's like Ocean's 11, you know, where everyone is the thing. You know, this guy and every person represents that sector and what they put into the process of creating visions of the future. And the reason, also, just one more point, thought of the theme of cause and effect. So it's a really a simple, but I think quite interesting concept, where by showcasing to the community what the future of our urban environment will actually look like, be it physical or digital in the case of the metaverse, we're actually giving like a glimpse to people today of what the outcome of their decisions will be. And when you see the outcome, that's like seeing the effect before you've put in the cause. So when you see the outcome, hopefully it actually comes back to improve the decision that we make about it today, i.e. the cause. And that loop keeps going around and around. So it's kind of injecting a little bit more, idealized and aspirational element into the work that we do. Ultimately, architecture, property development, visualization, marketing, design. It can be quite commercial and sort of like pragmatic exercises, but really we are shaping the future of the way we live. And I think that visioning how that future will look is such an important component in that, hopefully in actually improving what that future will look like. So that's kind of the birth of the idea. Maybe we'll do some other questions. I do want to mention every speaker, and I got to mention the sponsors too, Stephen. So
yeah, we can do it. There you go. So maybe this is the first slide if you want to mention everyone here.
Okay, so it's a lot. So I got to, but they're amazing. All-star cast. I'm going full Jimmy Fallon, on this. They all actually are amazing. So we've got people like, we've got the artist who's Ash Thorpe, who actually designed the Batmobile in the latest Batman movie. So that's like just,
really?
He's going to talk. Yeah, no, really, yes.
Cool.
Yes. He's incredible. Yeah, no, really. So he's going to be talking about creativity. We've got on the other hand, we've got Peter Murray, who was the founder of New London Architecture, talking about how our cities can be greener and more sustainable. We've got Roger Black from Ballymore, who's the strategist. He's the creative director of Ballymore, and going to be talking about how strategy really brings meaning to places. From Australia, we have Sergio Brodsky, who is a futurist, and we'll be talking about the way that advertising and urban utility can actually coexist and enhance one another. The visualizer, who is sort of representing the core of what the conference, the audience of the conference and its legacy is Jan from Squint Opera, who is the managing director. Squint Opera are one of our colleagues, an amazing firm that do the most incredible, narrative-led type projects around the world. We've got a creative agency represented by Joe Nazari from Dienco, who come up with, the brand and the meaning behind a project. We've got a conversation. I'll actually be in conversation interviewing Robert Booth and John Brash from Ellington Properties and Brash Brands, respectively, about they're like the developer, and essentially talk about Middle Eastern projects that are just like really revolutionary, some of them quite controversial, and some people, almost provocative, and talking about where that's heading. We've got Rebecca Mills from Frost Collective, who's a placemaker, also from Australia. David Schwartz from Hush, who are in real life, so physical digital experience designers. So amazing immersive experience for the likes of LinkedIn, Instagram, Uber, and big tech companies, and also for real estate and architecture, but creating these incredible physical experiential experiences, if you will. Got Shajay, of course, who needs no more introduction. Did I skip? And Mark Webben from Wonder Hatch, who are incredible filmmakers and actually help they created the trailer for us. They're amazing. Did I skip anyone? Go back to the previous thing. I think
I
I
think you
missed one
covered
out.
it, but let's have a look.
Did
Double
I?
check.
I don't want to.
Maybe
COVID,
Jen.
of course. Hold on. I've got Jen. Yeah, I did miss. So I've got 3 more actually. See, there's so many. It takes half an hour to go through them. That's how many awesome speakers we have. It's got Jen Riley, who was the vice president of marketing at Bosa Properties in Vancouver, Canada. Her background is in gaming and technology, so she's going to be talking about sort of the gamification of the marketing process of real estate. And we've got Cobus Bothma from NVIDIA talking about the technology side of things. He's going to be speaking together with Jan from Squint Opera. We've got and finally the panel, which will be a few of the speakers will be on the panel about AI and the future of design, and we're going to be there's going to be an introduction video from Neil Leach, who is an architect, theorist, and real thought leader in the space, written several books. He's a professor at several universities.
Yeah.
About artificial intelligence and the impact on design. We're going to really dig into that and see what comes up. Yeah, and then there's going to be some refreshing beverages at the end.
Of course, beers is like the help everyone flow together. That's how you accelerate collaboration, right?
Of course. Sponsors. Can I just quickly mention our amazing sponsors?
Yeah, you can mention quickly. We'll do the sponsors because if they're not paying the Architecture Social, right? Come on, huh?
Well, I'll hook you up.
Okay. Now you can mention them all.
AMD Lenovo, Chaos Group, Epic Games and ArtStation, Ori Clark, Kitbash, and we have supporters like New London Architecture, Luxury Property Forum, 3D London, and PureBlink and Kilograph as well. So I think I mentioned everybody. There might be a couple of others, but look on the website; they're all there, and it's amazing the support we've had. So it's going to be pretty amazing day. Okay, that's the plug over.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm happy with it because I've got a soft spot for, like you say, like Epic Games and all this stuff, right? Because they're really pushing in the scene, and I love it. So the gamer in me approves. But such a cool event, right? Now, I am lucky because one of your guests is here. The architect is here, right? So maybe, and we won't give all the juicy nuggets away because people have got to get a ticket, right, to the event for the full conversation. However, Shajay, your talk in particular at the event is around the role of an architect in the metaverse. So we discussed a little bit at the start here about, what a naysayer. What would we say to someone who's kind of like metaverse now? Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you expand on what you think the role of the architect in the metaverse is, if you've got one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like we as architects feel super passionate about this topic, not only because it's like very much part of contemporary culture, but also because it has a long arc of architectural history. The idea of a 3D internet is not anything like that started with Zuckerberg in 2020. It's like it starts already in the 1990s with Netscape having these 3D VRML plugins and so on. And so the idea of a spatial web or the spatial internet is and also related to that is the ideas of cyberspace or virtual space. And so so this is very, very much like a long arc like that we want to connect into. That's why we are passionate, like that it's it's the internet becoming spatial, it's the internet becoming social, meaning multiplayer, right? Like currently websites are individual player, like you and I can be on the same website but not even know that we are there. So, and what is the one profession that has been dealing with like large number of people hosted in a 3D space? Architects, like an architecture. And so I think that's where we are like we think architects have a lot to contribute into shaping the future of the internet, as the metaverse definitely is going to have a significant role in the way internet is going to evolve, right? Like and so as Andrei mentioned, like like architects can and should contribute like their design expertise, they should contribute their technological expertise, and they should also contribute their branding, right? Like the idea of like architects have always been empathetic with the client. Like, so we have direct empathy with the user. Our professional training and our professional well-being even depends on us having empathy with the user. So that I think is the gist of our interest in the metaverse, that it is historic, it's social, it's 3D, and it's multiplayer. So whether we've been doing stadiums and cathedrals and railway stations, like these are all 3D spaces with thousands of people interacting. And so it's architecture in the service of the user, architecture in the service of the spatial experience, architecture in the service of a productive urban experience. So
I love it. I love it. So I'll play this in the background. But while you're here, right, because you run code in Zaha Hadid, and code is like the kick gas. You do all computational design and generative and all that cool stuff. You probably can explain it a lot better than me, but that's what I understood of code. It's like you guys are really on the bleeding edge of tech and all this stuff, right? So a lot of the content I do here as well, Shajay, is about architects who are in their careers, and sometimes maybe they're doing mainstream architecture and they've got a passion for this stuff, right? But what I'd love to know, because I'm sure you do the interviews for your team and some other stuff as well, what skills would be really cool? If someone was put an application in, is there anything you look for, or is it more of a passion, or is it specific scripting skills or stuff? I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like the Architects, like is like it's a 40-year-old company, and like we are digitally native. Like we were one of the earliest to be a paperless studio. I mean, not that we don't use paper and don't do physical things. Like it's just that we are natively attuned to all the opportunities that a computer can offer. So that's why we are called Code, right? Like the small team within Zaha Hadid Architects, we're only 20, and Zaha Hadid Architects is 550. So we operate at the intersections of all the cool things that computers can do, and all the relevant things, societally useful things that design ought to do. So that's why, like, it's the intersection of things that are possible and things that are necessary, right? And so, like, we're all trained as architects, and I think that is fundamental part of the training, because by architectural training attunes yourself to be collaborative. Like, I think, like, if there was ever a master of many trades or a jack of many trades, it is the architect, right? That, like, we need to have, on the one hand, some kind of financial savviness, like on the other hand, we need to have empathy with, like, the user, and have some understanding of how things stand up, or how things are produced. Like in the metaverse, it doesn't really matter whether things stand up, but we still need to know how it is produced. Like, what does the illustrator need to do? What does the gaming engine creative director need to do, and so on. So yeah, so those are, like, the architectural training is, I think, the fundamental building block. And then you can have, like, technical training in production systems in the gaming world, in the computer graphics world. So we do a lot of research as well, like mathematical and geometric research, again, in the field of computer graphics and animation. And so yeah, it's definitely an intersection of passion and technical skill. So we look towards, like, companies like Pixar, Epic, and so on, like particularly Pixar, because it's a fantastic intersection of technically gifted people working collaboratively with storytellers, with even physical sculptors and so on. Like, so that's, we think architecture can learn a lot from, like, the movie making industry, and vice versa. Like, so I think, so the spatial disciplines can unite in the metaverse. Yeah.
Awesome. Very, very useful. I've got one question that's come in, and we'll do that in a sec. But just before that, Andrei, you run an awesome architectural visualization company as well. So you haven't escaped my question, because I'd love to know as an employer what you look for as well. And I'm going to bring up actually your work in the background. But can you tell me what you look for when you're hiring people who are passionate about emerging technology and that stuff? But maybe also you can tell us about your company and tell us what you look for in awesome, aspirational people. Oh, the phone's going as well. There we go.
They found you, Stephen.
Oh, that's not me. That's not my phone.
Oh,
Don't worry.
someone.
I don't mind.
Okay, there's a few questions there. Okay, about my company. So Binyan, we're a global studio these days with offices in Sydney, Melbourne, New York, London, Dubai, and Los Angeles. And we sort of I started a company in my living room 15 years ago, and we got about 110 staff. We work on it's a lot more than just CGI and visualization. It's really a integrated offering of different content that is required to explain the future of cities, to sell a project. We do a lot in the marketing space, so actually it's literally selling to the end users, so those people that will occupy the space, be it residential, be it or those who will be tenanting the offices and so forth. And so we usually work on complex projects that are difficult to explain. Just one picture won't do. You know, you need animation, you need potentially a interactive application, you need a physical digital experience in the sales gallery. And like one of the things that we really focus on is the strategy that weaves and ties all these things together. Because when a client comes and says, okay, I've got this, let's say, I don't know, beautiful resort in Costa Rica, and I need to tell a particular story about it, we first question is, who's your audience? Where are you communicating? Is it physical? Is it digital? How broad is the audience? How narrow? And what are the ideas you need to convey? And in what media types and what content types to speak to them at every point in that customer journey? And we kind of come up with that, first map the journey and then the content to support it. So I don't know, you look around, yeah, that project. Sometimes we do things, you know, straight up visualizing highly photoreal real estate, as you can see in all of these pictures. If you actually click on the one in the top, that tile where there's two arched windows, the one to the right of that.
Oh, this one, post house.
Yeah, post house. So this is interesting, like a bit of something a bit different. If you click into that one, so you'll see we created and there's a slider there. If you move the slider, so this is a very conceptual project. We did this in collaboration with our friends and colleagues in IF Studio in New York, an amazing creative agency, where we kind of injected a brand concept into every one of the images to make a surreal version of so there's the real one. If you slide, like, go, this is your living room, you know, lovely living room and dining room, great. But here is it is how it would feel to be in that space. So because it's in Brooklyn, right next to the Barclays Center, so it's like, you know, you're going to have sports and entertainment right near you. It's got great connectivity. So subway it comes into this one. It's a very green building if you go down to the next one. So this is kind of the surreal image, is how you're going to feel and how, you know, what your lifestyle will be like while occupying that space. And that's a really cool concept that was really, really fun to work on. And there's one, I think there's a couple more. Yeah, anyway, so basically we came up with this, with a surreal, and this was really fun. Now, not every project like this, but we do pride ourselves into doing these kind of unique, creatively led projects as well. Okay, that's about Binyan. What do we look for? That the other question, yeah? I mean, we look for people that think about creativity not as a technical exercise, but as a narrative exercise, I would say. You know, because the technical part of it, of course, everybody has to be incredibly technically skilled. No doubt about it. Like, that's your ticket in the door. If you don't know how to use a software, 3D Max, V-Ray, Corona, and you know, post-production tools, all the animation tools, like you are, you know, you're not going to get in the door. But once you're there, it's people that, so let's say in the animation space, I don't know, if you want to click on, if you go into I think there's a show reel somewhere if you want to click it in the background. If you go to about, I think.
Okay, cool.
But you may want to kill the sound. I think there's a show reel somewhere on this page. Go down.
Okay.
Sorry, plugging the.
Wow, it's a big team, isn't it? Awesome. Lovely pictures.
Well, that's just a show reel there. See, we go show reel.
Yeah.
It
Sorry.
says it's yeah. The won some awards. Blah blah blah. Not that one. Not that one. I mean, you can play that one, but that's just showing their work.
Okay.
It's if you click on it it should eventually there. Yeah, you're almost there.
Oh,
You're
I was
almost
there.
there.
I was
It's
there.
at the bottom. At the
I was
bottom.
there.
Oh,
Hey,
God,
I
there it
got
is.
you.
Yeah. So just it's got the soundtrack, so you
Got
might
there
want to.
finally. Sorry,
Get there.
it's hard
So you
driving
might-
the computer. You know, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm messing it up. Sorry,
So you
guys.
want to kill the sound.
It's either
There's
way.
a few.
I have
Are you able to do that?
I think we can have the sound. Frank.
Then
do you
I won't
think?
be able to talk over it. It's like 3 minutes long. Okay.
Oh yeah. Let me
Let me answer the question. I don't want to be self-promoting too much, although of course, why not? The point is the kind of people who look for are people that see technology.
People
as a
say-
way to say something. Play it later.
I've worked it out. Sorry, I've done it.
Okay, good. Okay,
Can you-
great. So
Is it okay?
yeah, no, it's good. Now no sound, so it's just me. So people that look at the technology as a way for self-expression. Ultimately, of course, we're commercial artists. We're not, and a lot of our guys actually have separate, passion projects and careers as artists, like more art for art's sake, and really encourage that. But ultimately, like one of the things that often comes up, question I get asked is, technology going to make what you do redundant, not relevant, disrupt, the computer will just spit at the AI, yeah. I mean, and perhaps certain aspects it will, but those people that can kind of, see technology as a way to enhance storytelling and artistic expression within our realm of architectural image making, animation making, experience making, those are the people ultimately we look for. Now, sometimes when someone comes in as a junior, of course, they just got to do the job, but we still do look for the fire that burns, and like within. And also culture fit for us is super important as well. I would say, I'm sure that's nothing too revolutionary to say these days, but for us, be able to be humble, driven, passionate, and be great at taking feedback, and have like a kind of a limitless attitude to the way you grow, and always wanting to progress is super important to us. And we have one of our sort of values is to be a mensch, which is a Yiddish word for like just being a nice person, like no matter what. I don't know, we don't like yelling at each other. We try really hard not to have a high no asshole. That's not a swear word, right? Try no asshole rule in the team. Don't give other people you can have a bad day, and we all understand, but don't give other people a bad day. So we're kind of pretty anal on, actually, we're not curing cancer here. The work is cool, but it's not that important that you should go and have a bad day at work. And I think we work very, very hard, and we want people there that can work hard but also enjoy themselves and enhance the life of people around them. So kind of a combination of all those three: technical, creative passion, and great culture fit. If you can just get that, easy peasy. It's hard to hire great people.
Easy peasy. Do you know what? I was listening, but when I muted it here, right, it was still playing it on my screen. So I could hear the beautiful lady talking, and that's all I hear. Yeah. So I could hear just about you, and I hear no asshole policy, which I think is a good one. So I got the gist of it, and I'll listen to the replay. So thanks for sharing that, because I think it's important, isn't it? Sharing how people can get into this and the kind of things that you guys are looking for as employers as well. Now,
and most of the people that work with us are former architects. I mean, I'm an interior architect by training. That's what everybody's coming from. You've got to know the language of architecture. So it's quite common that from this world, people, find a passion within the digital.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So what I was going to say, guys, so I've got one or two questions from the audience here. So we've got Zachary's asked one or two things. Now, Shajay, before, I know you've got your marking, and you were saying you are deep in your university course because you're involved in the AA as well as the awesome stuff there. So I promise I won't keep you too much longer. But if it's cool with you, I've got these two interesting questions that I think would be a nice thing that we can kind of wind down on together. So Zachary Kunzman says, do you think that there will be more focus on the multiverse architecture and urban design as opposed to the real life versions?
I generally don't think of it as oppositional. That there will be like an increasing convergence of virtual and the physical, and so I think it would definitely be augmented, right? Like, so the, like, what's physical is important, like as a let's say as a coat hanger for like doing other things, augmenting it with like the virtual information, digital information. I mean, ultimately we want any space to be a host, a productive experience. And by productive, I don't mean like generally business, like, but you know, if you go to a museum, you're having a productive experience because you're learning something, you're interacting with people. And I think like that would be the primary motivation for any focused development of the metaverse, like as it would be on the real world as well, or the physical world. So yeah, so I think the focus would be on user experience, like how, whether it is physical or virtual or augmented and mixed reality and so on, like the revolution is going to be somewhat similar to internet, like the previous one where it was entirely web page, 2D design, like, you know, like graphic designers and web designers, like, you know, their profession went through accelerated evolution, right? Like, and there was tons of jobs for everybody. There was like enough motivation to evolve technologically. So I think that similar is going to happen with architecture. Like, so, and the motivation for all of that is ultimately the end user, right? Like that, the more we can organize spaces around what people want, rather than just people being dumped into cities and with not having much of a choice on anything, like, so we're bringing the language of choice and browsing and socializing in 3D settings from the gaming world, like into into the everyday world, like. And I think that's what the metaverse is going to be. And yeah, multiverse is quite likely that there might be, you know, a retail focused metaverse, there might be education focused metaverse, there might be engineering focused metaverse, like, and yeah, so, and they might be interoperable, like. And so yeah, I don't see these as oppositional, because ultimately physical world and the virtual is in the service of humanity, right? Like the, so that's why architecture is so important.
Well done. Yeah. Perfect. That's really useful. I used to get confused between multiverse and metaverse, but thanks, Zachary, for bringing that question up. Red Mike actually says, "Love the Be a Mensch manifesto." I'm guessing that's inspired by the by Binyan Studios. So, Andrea, you're doing something right. Red Mike is quite impressed.
What's the Be a Mensch manifesto?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was something that maybe was brought up while the lovely lady was speaking. I couldn't hear these guys. Well, Red Mike, you don't know what you're on about.
Well, Be a Mensch is one of our like values, but I'm just Googling it right now. Manifesto. Maybe he means that. Okay, Be a Mensch manifesto. The Mensch manifesto, how to act with integrity. Cool. It's on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Red Mike.
Maybe I read it. Maybe it came out of my brain subconsciously, and I read it, or maybe I wrote it. You know.
Brilliant. I've got two more questions here, and then we can wind it down if that's cool. Have we got time for two more questions, guys? Is that cool? Because then we're going to mention where that everyone can meet you in person. You know, I would be there if I didn't already commit to something. I might sneak afterwards and catch you guys in the pub, actually. But before we talk about that, so Daniel has just put in a question saying, how would you suggest small architecture practices get involved with the metaverse? My practice is based in Manchester. Would love to start working in these spaces, but are yet to find any interest in my local network. Ooh, good question. I mean, Andrei, are you happy to pass this to Shajay, or would you both like to jump in? Oh, it's all yours, Shajay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, like, again, already a lot of young practices are operating in the virtual only initially. Like, I mean, and like eventually I'm pretty sure that will manifest itself into a physical world commission as well, like, because, you know, architecture has like this typical problem, the triangle problem, right? Like, where either you need a brief, you need a client, and you need a location, and the metaverse kind of solves for all of that, because you can create your own virtual site, like, and like propose something, and then you may find that like you can directly talk to the consumer or would be client. So and I do think like the metaverse does actually truly democratize architecture, to the extent that we can be participating in the creation of more and more of the physical world, like, and more of the virtual world as well, because currently only like 1% of the world's architecture is actually uh, commissioned or designed, or architects are involved in less than 1% of the world's architecture, which is, even if we can increase it to 2%, like that's, it's going to be significantly impactful. And so, yeah, like, so to we like, as a small company, like, I mean, just, get used to like working in Fortnite, or like, Unreal, Unity, or whatever. And they, or Minecraft, even, like, many people are having complete practices designing for the virtual, and eventually I'm sure it's going to turn into physical world commissions as well. Yeah.
Perfect. There you go, Daniel. Start playing around. Download Unity or it used to be the CryEngine when I was ages ago. I don't know what happened to the CryEngine, but Epic, I'm sure, have their own. What's Epic Engines called, actually?
Yeah, Unreal, and Fortnite
Unreal.
also, like, they're talking a lot about like the Fortnite creative economy, and like, it will be monetarily viable, I think, in the near future, to have at least like your income augmented through your creations virtually. Yeah.
I love it. All right. So the last question. But before that, Red Mike says he's an American living in Germany for the last 16 years, so he feels it too, Andrei. I think he feels your woes, as you were saying it. But Zachary said, and this could be one for both of you, actually, because you're both entrepreneurial and you got finger in the pulse. So will current projects build be likely sold down the line to people in the metaverse? Question mark. Much like the Sears catalog homes in the 50s, does this mean those creating visuals for customers now will be ahead? So interesting thoughts there. What do you guys think? Do you think that projects will be sold down the line to people in the metaverse? I mean, I've heard about people spending a lot of money on virtual metaverse projects, and I'm starting to see that in the news a while ago. Do you think that that's going to be a thing that's far away, or people going to start buying stuff soon and selling to people in the metaverse?
Well, I think when it comes to, I mean, my view, what I've researched and spoken to people much smarter than myself about this, is that, buying and selling, kind of going into that whole NFT type space, is about what retains and holds value, really. So
Yeah.
it's people buy that which they will think will hold value, and we don't know what that will yet be, either currency. So I mean, I don't know, I guess if I was like selling NFTs, I would be going, absolutely. And everybody's NFTs is like always saying how great NFTs are, because everybody has to be into them. I think the fad aspect of it is just that. But then when there's some kind of like more of a kind of an infrastructure behind it, and a like a de-risking of the asset, then it actually retain value and be liquid, then people will buy. And then why not? And just like, what's real estate now? Why is a house? Because the house retains value, you can sell it. That's what makes it valuable. So if they can get to that, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is, like, typically, at least there are two axes of value, right? One is archival value, which is like, the fact that an object has traveled to the Pompidou Mets, or like it's been in like the Tate Modern, like that that history creates value on the one hand, like, and or it is the first of something, like, and so you want to archive it, and the other is use case value, right? Like the more people use it, like, and the so there's like a way that it generates revenue, and so in either case, I think its value comes from its how it is used in society, like, and so again, like, if it is, it has if it is enhancing or related to a productive social experience, like, I think that is the first step to thinking about useful things. And in answer to the question, like, specifically, is like, we do see a huge value in we're already seeing some examples of projects being sold before they're built, and that we are actually particularly passionate about that use case where, architecture in the real world is a hugely risky endeavor, right? Like, it costs like tens of millions of dollars, and then developers invest it, and then you realize that, like, the end user doesn't actually want it. Whereas, like, we can flip that around, like, you can use the physically photorealistic game engine world to do A/B testing and, like, customize things for people, like, so that, like, people eventually get what they see, and so that also de-risks the project for the investors and for the eventual users and so on. So we are seeing a lot of tentative early efforts in that direction, like selling before it is being made. Yeah.
Nice. Well, there you go. Well, both interesting thoughts. Now, there's only so much we can cover in this hour, right? So if anyone's like thinking, oh gosh, I wish that that's the question, and maybe they're watching the replay. Now, as long as they're not watching the replay too far, we can actually meet both of you in person. Daniel says, thank you. Also love your work and thank you for sharing everything. So the show's gone all right, guys. Even with my sound glitches, we've got there and people have enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to quickly bring on the stage, just before we go now, here, the tickets. So this is where you can get the tickets. So you can go to asai.org, right? And then I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. Okay, so you can go there, watch the trailer. If you haven't already been knocked off your socks by that awesome epic trailer, okay, you can click here, you can buy a ticket now. The event is on November the 16th to 17th. It's in London. It's in the neck of the woods. It's in the UK. Can't ask for more. So guys, I'm so excited to hear about what happens at the event. I promise I'll catch you at the pub after. Andrei, is there any final words before you want to go, where people can find you?
I'm very easy to find. I'm just on LinkedIn. My email is adolnikov@binyan.com.au. I make myself not hard to find, so just contact me. Yeah, LinkedIn or via email. Come to the event. That's the best place to find me. I'll be running around like a madman on the day. So yeah, and we should set up a discount code as well for your listeners, Stephen. We'll do that. We'll do that shortly. So maybe you can post that after. So everybody watch the space. Go there. You can even email us and say, "Hey, I heard about it on Stephen's show," and we'll sort out the discount.
Yeah,
that way as well.
That's a good one.
It's in the Village Underground in Shoreditch. It's a venue where there's apparently a lot of awesome gigs happened at one point. So we'll try to live up to that legacy.
Super cool. I like it. It's an actually cool event to go to. Shajay, I mean, I'm blown away by the stuff you do, but if anyone's been living under a rock and they just got all excited by the stuff that you've done and they want to reach out to you, where do they contact you?
Yeah, like Andrei on LinkedIn is maybe the easy way to find me. And yeah.
Yeah, give you a chance, isn't it, to do all the stuff for the AA and all that stuff. So I'm sure you'll get back to someone when you've got a moment. So on that note, I think this is a wrap for today. Thank you so much to my guests for being here. You legends, both cutting edge, bleeding technology. It's the stuff that, as a kid who studied architecture, as a bit of a geek, I loved it. So it's been an absolute privilege. And everyone in the audience, please do check out the event. It does look good, and we want more good events like this. We don't want boring talks. We want good conferences and that was stuff we can all get passionate about and have a beer about as well. So on that note, I'm going to end the live stream here. I will find out the code. Andrei's going to tell me, and I will post that on social media soon. Thank you so much again, guys. I'm going to end the live stream now. Stay on the stage for 1 second, and we will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Thanks, Andrei.
Steven,